welcome. A couple of new faces. So good to see you here. This is the Open Teaching Group live with Nat, myself, and generally between 20 to 35 other incredible humans who like working on the interior of themselves. Today
Yeah.
you can do the intro for today, actually, Nat.
Oh,
I'm,
guys,
I'm a
this is
bit
a.
nervous too.
I know. This is one of those like fine line ones for Nathaniel because I need to walk that line of let's just give the team the information and without the judgment. And that's going to be hard because the analysis and the judgment of this is kind of part of it. So if I slip into a bit of a judgy kind of thing, please forgive me now. But I think it's going to be helpful. Bit of a disclaimer, this is challenging. This is a big deck. So this is probably be one of the biggest decks that we have for OTG. There's a lot of slides to get through, but I couldn't strip it. They all seemed relevant. This teaching class is it's gonna have a journey feel to it. There's a bit of a story I need to build because we are in pretty interesting times. Uh, and usual disclaimers for Open Teaching Group, please don't use this content anywhere else. It's psychoactive content, which means it has a resonance to it. If the wrong people hear this, it can be really overwhelming. It can change things a bit too quick because it's a lot packed in. There's a lot packed into this. So yeah, and if, as always, this is not the place where we do like trigger work or healing or anything like that. If you do get a little bit, this a bit saucy or a bit spicy in the session, that's good. But this is not the place where we kind of. There's plenty of great practitioners that do that. This is an education and resource center, guys, and we're really focused on really high reason and high reliability in this space because a lot of the times this space doesn't have high reason and high reliability. A lot of the time this coaching and interior space has high subjectivity and high bullshit. So we're doing the exact opposite of that. People still coming in, which is nice. Okay. Um, are consciousness peddlers the new car salesman? We're gonna try and look at Tommy that grin, the TC grin.
I know it's early days, but check in now.
Check in now. Check. Let's
What's
do.
going on when that email hit your email inbox
Yeah.
or the Facebook post came across your desk, so to speak? First reaction, first response to seeing that are consciousness peddlers the new car salesman. What
I
came
can't.
up in you?
We can't be the only ones, guys. We can't be the only ones going, what the hell is going on?
Sasha sharing intrigue. Terry's sharing I had a chuckle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What else, guys? Jump into the chat panel. Penelope sharing I immediately felt yes.
Yeah, yeah. So we all feel there's a bit of fugazi going on, right? There's a bit of something. There's a bit of snake oil, there's a bit of cheese, there's a bit of bullshit. So let's try and figure out what's happening in a strong way that makes sense. So when you have these feelings, you can go, yeah, no, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. That's all we're going to do today. But as I said, this slide deck is pretty full on. So are we ready to roll? Are you ready? Ready, ready, ready. Let's do it. All right, help Nathaniel out here. Can we truly increase our consciousness? Right, that's the premise here. Can we actually do that? If people are selling this thing, can we actually do it? Guess what? The answer is no, you can't. Your level of consciousness is set at birth with an error of 5%. So what you come out with is what you got. An error of 5% is no small thing. So obviously your actions and intentions and your practices can give you a bit of extra juice, but it's nowhere near as much as what we think. And I'll explain why. I'm not just gonna, not back this stuff up. You actually can't. You can't do it. What you come out with is what you got. Where the confusion is people are confusing the increase in consciousness with a much simpler process. Certainly something's happening, right? If you do growth work, if you do spiritual work, if you do good psych work, things change, yeah? That's pretty obvious. If you do good interior work, things change. But it's not an increase in consciousness. We actually can't do that. We actually can't do that. And if you want to look at the research from Ken Wilber or David Hawkins or any of these guys or Jane Lovinger or Susan Cook-Gruder, these names in the developmental industry, they all say the same thing. Can't do it. So what's actually happening then? Well, here's an easy example. If you have two people and they're looking at the same mountain, Right? There's two people looking at the same mountain. The person on the left is just sitting at the base of the mountain. They go, wow, look at this mountain. It's amazing. Look at this mountain. Person on the right goes through a bit of a journey, walks around the mountain, walks through it, gets all the environment. It's the same mountain. One person is unveiling more awareness of the mountain, and the other person is not unveiling more awareness. The mountain stays the same. The consciousness stays exactly the same. Are you unveiling awareness or are you not? So, right, it's a kind of reverse. We don't gain consciousness, we unveil awareness of it. So the person who goes on the journey, goes into the mountain, finds all the valleys and the creeks and the birds and the trees and the beautifulness of the mountain, they're going to come back and go, whoa, this mountain's amazing. Because they've unveiled more awareness. That's all it is. That's all that's happening. Are we cool with that? Great. You can't increase your consciousness, but you can unveil more and more awareness of the action and effect of consciousness. The action and effect of consciousness. All of the things that we put into the bucket of increasing consciousness, you can't do that. They are awareness practices, unveiling what's already there. So that keeps it nice and simple. Cool? We cool with that premise? Great. Let's continue on. Next question. What about collective consciousness then? What about the collectivity, the unity? Well, this is where it gets bloody interesting and a little technical, so stay with me. We're going to talk about something called habit and novelty. So I've got some years across the top here. This is a general, what's called novelty wave, right? General novelty wave. In the lower section of the wave, the collectivity is just in habit and sameness. So in the years you can see here, the entire collectivity was just kind of doing the same thing, feeling the same thing, thinking about the same thing. At the peak of the wave, we go through these big, what are called novelty waves, guys. Novelty waves are collective change that all happens at once. And it touches every single paradigm, financial, value system, intellectual, energy, everything, nature. These novelty waves and changes lift everything. So have a look where we are now. Oh, sorry. Right, to keep this nice and I don't want to go too hard into it, but here we are. We are in and on the top end of a huge, huge, huge novelty wave. We are not in habit and sameness as a collectivity. Just thumbs up. We understand that. As a giant unity, look around the world. You've noticed we're all in pretty crazy change right now, yeah? Cool. So this is a fundamental understanding, that our collectivity goes through cycles of deep habit where it habituates. No more animals pop out, no more interesting things, same, and then boom, the whole collectivity experiences a novelty wave, and then it settles into habit again. That's how the collectivity changes. All good? I think we are. Beautiful. Here's where we enter something called the shape-shifting ego. Remember that our collectivity moves in waves. Now, because it's a collectivity, we don't have to do anything about that, right? We get lifted by it. So, any changes in awareness, sensitivity, perspective, or values, the ego comes in and says, I did that, I must be special. Hello, look how special I am. That's the shape-shifting ego. So let me explain this. We are in a time of increasing novelty and change. The collectivity is changing. Cool. But we're stuck with this thing called an ego. So the shape-shifting ego goes, oh, look how special I am. Look at all the change I did. No, the change is happening so hard in the collective right now. We're in a collective evolution that egos are claiming as their own and then trying to capitalize on it. Gurus, healers, shamans, psychics, spiritual guides, light workers, etc., etc. These titles are the peddlers of consciousness. Everyone's in an uplift through this novelty wave. The shape-shifting ego goes, I'm a special thing. I can do special things now. Have you please tell me, guys, I can't be the only one that's noticed in the last 2 years the mass movement in the market of gurus, healers, spiritualism, psychism, da 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 da, right? That's the collective novelty wave, and that's egos jumping in and going, look how special I am. Let's pause, let's talk. What are you getting out of the first section of this? Because we need to be all on the same page here. If you're lost now, it ain't gonna get nicer.
Jump into the chat panel team. Would love to hear from all of you.
Yeah, please.
Georgie, great to see you here.
Georgie.
Yeah, Sasha sharing. I'd say it's been longer than 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's only going to get more, Sash. It's only going to get more.
I got some more comments coming through. Look how spiritual I am. I am guru.
Yeah.
All offerings seem the same, but claiming to be different and better than the other offer.
Who said that? Who said that?
Terry.
Terry, good.
Sammy D. I just thought it was the algorithm sending me all the same kind of things.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, cool. So this is the shape-shifting ego, riding a collective change where the ego climbs in and says, you're amazing, you're special, you need to do something with this. That exact shape-shifting ego is the handbrake on deeper evolution, by the way. This little side note. Everyone has psychic abilities, everyone has healing abilities, every single person. As soon as you come in and identify that and the ego goes, I'm a special thing, I'm this, then you actually stop your own evolution way beyond that. So don't dilly-dally in telepathy. It's one of my favorite sayings. Don't dilly-dally in telepathy. The first time you have a truly telepathic or psychic moment, you go, holy shit, that was real. I saw that before it happened. And people go, whoa, I must be a special thing. You got to continue on because it gets way, way, way more interesting. Okay. In times of habit, interior change is a radical individual revolution. So in times where the collective is kind of still, you have to do heavy work, a full frontal attack on dysfunctional psychology, arduous and honest self-reflection, confronting abrasive attachments, and adjusting your life to any degree necessary. If you want to make interior change in a time of habit, it's heavy going, right? It's heavy going. But in times of novelty and change, the collectivity does most of it for you. Increases in collective sensitivity, societal structural reorganization, novelty waves that change everything from the inside, and collective value changes. Like I do a lot of work in the business realm, and the collective value changes happening in people are just clashing with business values monstrously. Organizations are going through such a rigmarole right now. The divide's massive because of value changes, the clashes, because this is a collective. We're in times of novelty. We're not in times of habit where you have to sit down for hours and self-reflect with a magnifying glass. You're on an escalator. It's happening. Get out of the way. Cool. That's just a little difference here, right? Of interior growth aspiration. There's different times in the collectivity. Yes, TC.
Now, with this, for anyone that wasn't there, let me know. Send me a private message. I can send you a recording. Does this apply to the class that we ran about putting down the tools and the importance of understanding why it's so important to put down the tools and stop the serious 8 hours a day of introspection
less tools
and
the better
processes?
right now. Get them out. Less tools the better. Less podcasts, less stuff. Get out of the way. Like the more you can get out of the way, the more this rocket ship's going to take you. And when you get it kind of wrong and you have loaded up your life with mental tools, personal development tools, when you've loaded up your life with the personal development tools, they're just a heavy weight now. And they just loop because there are processes happening in the background way more powerful and way more subtle because subtlety is power, where the mental models that you're given to try and structure your life are just heavy weights. Cool. So I am a little, I mean, I'm not concerned. I wouldn't say concerned, but I am, I'm certainly acutely aware of people in the personal development space that sell classic and traditional personal development and classic and traditional psychology are just going to get overrun with the complexity of the problem. They're not going to have the right tools, and people are just going to be disappointed. So shall we continue? Right, let's do it, team. Let's do it. This is fun. This is funsies. This is where we start to look at how the ego structure is a lot more kind of complicated than what we seem to initially believe or feel. First of all, we have our mental ego. I'll go slow. This is an important slide, so we'll kind of slow the pace down a little bit here. We have a mental ego, we have our vital ego, and then we have our physical ego. And what happens, guys, in these times of novelty waves is the mental ego is the most surface. So that gets dissolved and you don't have to do anything about it. You don't have to do the individual revolution. You don't have to do the uh, I don't know why. I don't know why I was like this. Who knows, really? But I was always kind of really, really individually focused on my own growth. Um, and I would prioritize it all the time. But the advances that people are experiencing now are so rapid and so fast because this whole the whole surface mental ego is dissolving naturally. So I'll explain it. We can explain ego really simply with just the self-evident feeling of the individual I that's separate from everything else. Right? The self-evident feeling that I'm a me, I'm separate from everything else. In Western societies and cultures, it's self-evident to the point where we live and exist wholly from it. But in Eastern and traditional and more subtle societies like India, they recognize that the ego or the ahamkara is just part of the psyche, a necessary part so you feed yourself, not someone else. Terence McKenna says, Terence McKenna was asked, what's the point of the ego? And he said, well, when you're out to dinner, you make sure you put the fork in your mouth, not someone else's. That's the entire function of it. So let's break this thing down. What exists inside the mental ego is self-images, thoughts, memory, time, models, mental models of life, beliefs, rigid morals, self-esteem, and analysis. And self-esteem is a subtle psychic organ that measures you. It's the thing that measures you. How am I stacking up to everyone else? Self-esteem is not like confidence or anything like that. It's an internal measuring device. And this is all part of the mental ego. So this we're going to discuss shortly. What happens in times of collective evolution to this mental ego is really interesting. The vital ego, deeper hindbrain spinal cord, it's got to do with security, the will to be a something, sex desire, potency, and power. All of these deep intrinsic, I would say instinctual drives are still very much rooted in the fact that I'm separate to you. I'm different. I'm separated and not part of this. The security, the will to be, the sex desire, the potency and power is still ego function. And lastly, physical ego. We have self-preservation. What lives here is self-preservation and physical safety. Just feel into that, guys. The physical ego, there is a network in your physical body of ego structure that is intrinsically linked with your nervous system to say self-preserve and your physical safety is paramount. That's still ego. That's fine. It's built, it's nature. But we have to understand ego in a much more complex way because when we have people in the marketplace saying, I've heard there's a guy, oh my God, I can't remember his name. But he had this enlightening moment, and now he teaches this no mind state, and he's on Instagram saying, "There's nobody here, and I'm fully enlightened, and come do my courses, and this is the last train stop. You don't need to go anywhere else. Once you meet me, you'll be enlightened forever." and and he's it's intense and abrasive, and he has this like volunteer staff team that he kind of like whips and lashes, and he's really intense. And yeah, so uh this little model we have is really important to understand as we'll go through. Right now, collectively in this collective evolution, it's naturally dissolving mental egos left, right, and center. Okay. The vital ego takes individual aspiration. That will not be done collectively because it's too rooted in. That the vital ego will never be lifted out of collectively. It's too rooted in. And then if you do want to go the full spiritual whack, the full way, you need a huge individual aspiration to dissolve or transfigure the physical ego. That's a lifelong effort, that one. Here, what are you saying, guys? Like, just before I go any further, we have three very separate and very distinct layers of ego. One's more surface, one's deeply rooted in. Can you see where this class is kind of going? What are what are we thinking? What are we feeling? Let's do 5 minutes here of discussion.
Red sharing excited. Terry sharing feeling the shift of the collective.
Yeah, for sure. For sure we all are.
So now, what I know we're going there, but we're getting there.
Yeah,
But what does an individual do when they're being sold consciousness, or AKA
yeah.
life beyond separation, yet the whole teaching and experience is coming from a mental ego that sold itself on the idea that it's
Yeah, that is the exact problem we face. That's the exact problem we face because we have, well, look, we'll get into it a little bit later, but just more, yeah, keep please more in the chat. We'll definitely get there. We'll definitely get to the problems.
Sasha sharing. It's evident that you're proposing the. Oh, pardon me. It's evident that you're proposing the argument that no one human can solve consciousness because it's happening already through the collective.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Variety sharing this depth of ego analysis and separation of it. I haven't heard this anywhere else. The felt experience of each one is different but very alive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The felt, you can actually subtly distinguish the three factors of it. You can. They get more
So,
intense. Yeah,
and that is a common, I know Bridie, she's been in the personal development industry for a long time now. I've been in it for over 12 years. It's interesting looking at this because without the education of these subtle, vital, and physical egos,
yeah.
one often looks at the ego being the mental ego as the final hurrah, the last stop.
That,
So
that, that.
it's let's break down your self images, let's work on your thoughts, let's do memory experiences, let's look at time, models, concepts, NLP,
Time's not
hypnotherapy,
real. We create our own reality. All
beliefs,
that
value
jazz.
systems, and it's like,
Oh no. Did we lose TC? Oh, you're back. You're back, Tommy.
am I back?
Yeah.
So that's often an experience where people think it's just after the mental ego that you enter a place of
Yeah.
utter and complete unionship.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hang
No.
on a second, you
No.
might be scratching the surface at the vital ego, which is where the real work is done, and
Yeah.
it goes on and on.
Yeah. 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 Anyone on the call, you come to my place for a week and I'll wipe out that mental ego. It's not that hard. It's not hard. Wiping out the mental ego is not hard and it doesn't take much effort. Really. It's just a small step on a very, very big journey, to be honest. It's not that difficult.
Guys,
And
where do you see the role unquote of government, the system that we're in,
yeah.
that suggests this group seeking to separate itself from, and others, the collective is moving away. So there's collective energy going on,
Yeah.
change going on, but it's almost like, when you've got a government, I'm not suggesting ours, I'm talking about more the Western capitalist society,
Yeah.
as a huge anchor, hanging on to what they know, the safety of what they know, because they're talking to a masses that's still receiving that message and believing that message.
Yeah. The cultural weight. We run a membership here, obviously at GOI called Full Spectrum Development. We have 5 teaching wheels. We have an entire teaching wheel dedicated to what we call sorry, Tommy, arrive, which is cultural understanding and cultural detoxification. Because we got to what we got to do in that realm, team, as a unit is really stop looking at the culture, government, and systems as external. What they are, in fact, are better represented of psychological systems inside you, the individual. They can't hold you back. They can't. If you're fixated externally, it'll feel a bit controlling and etc., possessive, etc., etc. But they actually can't do anything. They can't stop anything. The culture and our system and our government, you got to ask yourself how all of that is represented to you in your own psychology, because you can actually work on that by detoxing from it. But if you're fixated externally and think that the external movement is actually important or actually does impose something on you, then you'll get stuck because it's not the full truth. Yeah. So that's a tricky one, is understanding that to the weight of the culture is actually a opportunity to psychologically escape it without running to just grow tomatoes in Byron. That and van life, that doesn't do anything, because psychologically the entire cultural system still exists in you psychologically. So it doesn't do anything. You don't escape anything. So it is as Krishnamurti says, that the individual revolution starts with your own psychology about the culture. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to change jobs. You don't have to do anything. It's a good question. That's a great question, because it means, Brett, you're really paying attention here. Like you're really paying attention. Cool. And this is where what you're also intuiting here, Brett, is the intersection between consciousness and the absolute need to get paid. Right? That's a really tricky threshold of here we go, let's get into it. So this collective natural evolution wipes this top one out. It wipes it out. Let's just feel into this. What do you think happens in an individual when all of a sudden they've got a mental freedom? Imagine what you guys, some of you guys here will be, I'm not self-analyzing, I'm not self-judging, I have no self-doubt, I feel really free. I feel subtleties and connections I've never felt before, right? So imagine what that would be like. I've wiped out the mental ego, but I still need to be secure. I still have a will to be. I still have sex desire, and I still want to be powerful in some way. And I still need to get paid. Right? What happens here? What do you feel into this? What do you think happens? All of that top one, like all of this, self-images, thoughts, memories, that can all dissolve. The freedom feels immense. The freedom feels absolutely immense. And it's real. And it's real. But you still have to get paid. You still have to be secure. You still have a will to be someone. You still have an ego. What happens now? Go for it. What happens now? I've got a mental freedom. I'm using the words like liberation and enlightenment. I'm using those words because they feel good and they fit. But I still have to get paid, and I still have to get laid. Nice on tonality. We're smart people and we're reasonable. Let's just feel this out. What do you think would happen?
Change and growth. Allow, trust the self.
Oh, guys, you're all so sweet. You're all so sweethearted.
Empowerment, capacity to create without limitations if the mental ego is still in
Oh,
place.
guys, you absolute sweethearts. It's chaos. It's chaos. Nothing good happens. This is the problem. This is the problem. Check this out, right? I'll give you a real story. This is a real story. And I live in the Sunshine Coast. I'm not going to call them at TC. Keep me in check here. I'm not going to say the brand name. It's not important. There is a conscious community up here, right? And there's a breathwork dude, and got quite a following. They do great work. They do stuff on the beach. They've got quite a big following. They do, a lot of ice baths and they're a conscious community. They talk conscious. They eat conscious. They shit conscious. Whatever. Now, they sell stuff. They sell coaching. They sell programs. They sell breathwork. All good. All good. All good. What happens when you mix consciousness and money behind the scenes of that company? It's absolute destruction. It is corruption, it is greed, it is jealousy, it is full power games. It is a nightmare to work for this dude, and everyone behind the scenes hates it. If you look at every spiritual community or personal development community, behind the scenes, it is warfare behind the scenes because the vital ego is still fully intact. I want to be more powerful. I want to sleep with that chick in the class or that dude over there. I want to be the powerful one. All of that ego still remains. And on the surface, we have this, love and light, community, breath work. That happens every single time. Every single time, because the work that is required to dissolve the vital ego, you don't sell it, you don't talk about it. It is heavy, heavy going. So that's what happens when you wipe this stuff out. It is you have this mental liberation, you feel free, but you still need to get paid and you still need to get laid. So you do programs and you sell stuff, but underneath there is still a very, very strong vital ego that still needs to secure itself first before everything else. So when you still have a part of you that needs to secure you before everything else, that is corruption. And the group will be corrupted. Yes, TC.
Anybody that's really leaning in right now, just write down Enter the River of Insecurity video and hit me up and I'll send that to you over the next couple of days. Now, would that be appropriate that everyone either refresh or dive into that teaching for the first time? Entering the River of Insecurity.
The River of Insecurity is the title Tommy and I have given, is the vital ego journey, which is really gnarly. We've got a lot of teachings and tools around actually entering the vital ego. It's called the River of Insecurity because basically you live for quite a long time insecure. And you learn to tolerate this fundamental vital insecurity. And that's you do deep, deep work. And trust me, you do not want to talk about that work in a group. You don't want to share your fucking story about that in a group. It's so private and it's so full on and it's so personalized. So this is why underneath that conscious, quote unquote, spiritual community, I guarantee you, I put every asset I have under this, and I'm a very, very married man and a very mortgaged man, that it is absolute chaos underneath because of vital egos, and there's still a deep need for self-security and power. Saucy, huh?
You're saying that it's much more confronting to go toe-to-toe with the vital ego than the mental ego?
Oh my God, it's so confronting. It's so confronting, right? It's so confronting to come into contact with the vital ego, fundamental security, fundamental being, fundamental sex desire, and the lack of that or the overpowering need of that. A male who wants to do vital ego work, when he comes into contact with his sex desire, it owns him. It owns him. Because every female you talk to, every female I have a really in-depth conversation with, I ask them a question: how threatened do you feel by male sexuality? And they say, well, yeah, basically all the time. Like if I go on a date or I hang out with a male, my first thought is, when's he going to try and bang me? Because it's so rooted in all the time. Team, I have been quite scared, honestly, about this GOI process because basically every teacher that enters the spiritual realm, if you want to call it that, as an authority or a person, ends up with sex charges against them. Almost all of them. Because the sex drive is so difficult to spiritualize. And so no matter what's happening in these spiritual communities, I know without a shadow of doubt that there is unruly, vital stuff happening underneath, because Tommy and I actually work on this, and you don't, you just, yeah, it doesn't marry up. So this is what happens. This is what happens. The shape-shifting lower ego is now free to become whatever it needs for its secret desire to be someone special and influential and financially secure under the guise of consciousness. Right? So when our evolutionary change starts dissolving this mental ego, which is happening everywhere, what you're going to see is more sneaky behavior, more ruthless behavior, more underhanded behavior, because and more things that people are going to try and sell and bolster themselves with. It's going to happen more and more and more. Because the shape-shifting ego, as soon as that thing in you that says I did this, I am special, as soon as that shape-shifting ego comes in and claims collectivity for its own merit, then we have a problem. We have a problem. Because the lower ego is just still focused on me and mine. So guys, like I've been around these communities. I do have a hard time. I don't spend much time in there, but I've been around them. I've been around them, and it's all love and light on the top, and it's all amazing community and connection. But try and talk to them about sex and money, and they just choke on the words. They can't even say, hey, they can't even say, hey, my product's $1,000. They say, oh, your contribution is $1,000. They can't even, really they can't own the money conversation, because there's still all this ego wrapped around it and all this fear wrapped around it. So they can be spiritual and love and light, but as soon as their finances get low, they panic. Then, self-preservation, greed, and jealousy kicks in.
Yeah, Terry sharing the investment into your future is.
Yeah. Like, now the product's this much. They can't own it with a full integrity, because there's still vital ego wrapped around that stuff. And so here's the easy thing to remember, guys. The more someone is outwardly saying consciousness and healing, the more someone is outwardly saying that, they have not touched their vital ego. And underneath that, because that's how it kind of works.
And I think, Nat, is it probably important just to share here? This isn't shedding light or bagging, but if you're at a position in time where you're doing mental ego to mental ego work, then you find the practitioner that's at the mental ego experience. And you sit down with it. Does that make sense to everyone? Like, oh, there was a time when working on my beliefs was good and doing my vision board was good, and I moved the furniture around a bit, so I didn't feel that on this day, and I knew how to suppress emotion here. That's great. But Nat and I aren't chatting really ever to anybody at Goy that's still just sitting there going, I just really want to keep working on my mental ego. There's something deeper, something happening under.
They want a revolution. People that come to Goy want a full-blown revolution. This class, are they the new car salesman? What's the car salesman vibe is, what is this? It feels a bit cheesy, a bit snaky. If you get that feeling in the conscious community, in the spiritual community, what you're feeling is vital ego assertion being spoken through this empty mind. If you feel something's a bit off, it's because the vital ego is still alive and well. Something in them wants security. Something in them wants specialness. Something in them wants your money. Something in them wants to bed you. Guys, this story I heard a month ago, sexual assault case, breathwork again, big breathwork community. Guy comes over, whispers in a female's ear, so I'm just going to do some work on you. Is that okay? Slides his hand right down to her bits and says, oh, you've had a sexual wound here. I'm just going to heal it for you. and penetrates. You know, like, and that's guys, that's common. Guys, that's common. You get someone into 3 hours of holotropic breathing, right? You get someone into 3 hours of holotropic breathing. Their ego is so offline. Do you know how easy it is to walk over to that someone in such an open, vulnerable state with this really soft, gentle, I'm mentally free, you've had sexual trauma, let me heal you. That woman cannot stop that. Too receptive, too open. Right? So this is why this shit is important to know, is because the attraction to the conscious community is massive because mental liberation is kind of amazing. And it's really the way people look and feel and talk, and they're very open and very welcoming, but there are vital egos everywhere, everywhere. So that's the reason why this needs to be put in order. And to make everyone really sharp is if it feels a bit cheesy, you're feeling the resonance of vital ego. Cool. And the vital ego work is long and difficult, and it's a long endurance. To even talk about physical ego dissolution is your life has to be dedicated, fully dedicated to spiritual realization to even start that conversation. Above everything, money, work, kids, family, everything. Absolutely everything. Your spiritual maturity and realization, if you want to do the physical full journey, it is your job. You don't do anything else. To spiritualize and get rid of the I feeling out of self-preservation and physical safety, do you know how implicit that is? You're working against 14 billion years of evolution. Right? So the spiritual conversation about mature and authentic realization is so hard and so difficult and so technical. And people are running around going, I'm enlightened, buy my shit. I'm like, man, yeah. Razor sharp ears, eyes, and bits. Razor sharp team. Okay, how are we feeling? How are we feeling? What's because I told at the top I said this is going to be a kind of heavy feeling class.
Jump
I
into
feel
the
like
chat panel team.
I feel like I've done good work today. Just pat on the back for Nathaniel.
Sasha sharing it's really landing, great info and clarity.
Thanks for coming, Sash. Love it. Thanks for coming.
I'll just say lights are flashing up everywhere for me. There's
Lots of flashing, Brett. Lots of flashing. Love it.
so many grounding points of the stories which have so much more meaning now. There's as Sasha said, clarity.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Love it, team. Love it. Thanks for your support. We're trying to keep things in order, you know. It's a wild west out there. I think I might have mentioned on a couple of classes, I wrote a book about 4 years ago that was one part of it was really dedicated to, I just called it the coaching boom because this tidal wave was coming of people who I could see the mental liberation starting in everyone. I'm like, what's everyone going to do? Everyone's going to become coaches. Everyone's going to become mentors, guides, because everyone needs to get paid. And so as this was coming in thick and fast, you know, what you have is you have a marketplace. You have a marketplace of the interior. Tommy and I call it the interior growth market. You don't need any qualifications to enter it. You can charge whatever you want. You can start wherever you like, right? And you can influence anyone. It is the most Wild West marketplace in existence. Is the interior growth market is the most Wild West. It is the most unregulated, and it is the most dangerous because you're touching on people's hearts, minds, and wallets.
There's a common theme of three people have commented through, so I'm going to ad lib here something along the lines of that. I'm now realizing why I'm drawn to some communities but don't necessarily want to involve or get
There you go.
engaged with them. I'm being drawn to them, but I'm kind of like,
Drawn,
ugh.
Yep, the drawer is real because it's the magnet of the no mental ego, right? So there's a magnet there, but you're feeling other stuff. Beautiful. And this Goy really is a reference point, guys. We encourage everyone to explore their growth, but if you have questions about something, please hit Tommy and I up or in our Facebook group. We like, we're kind of the overseer type of thing, and we don't tell anyone not to do anything or but we can cross-reference a lot of stuff for you and say, yeah, that's going to be great there, or here's where you're at. We run a half an hour assessment for everyone called an FSD assessment, a full spectrum development assessment, where we look at big categories: your spiritual work, your psych work, your performance work, your emotional alignment work, and your cultural detoxing. We kind of do a once over and give directives from there. So if you're interested in sitting for half an hour with me, totally free. Let's just do a once over of your interior, and I can point you in the right direction. Sweet. So if Tommy, I'm sure we've got the link there somewhere. How would you like people to access that if they want?
Yeah. Thanks, Nat. So, got everyone that wrote through today took the note of the river of insecurity. If you can just do me a favor, please, by messaging me on Facebook. Just message me on Facebook. Say, hey, Tommy, after the river of insecurity video, just so it'll keep me reminded. And a bit later today, when I get some time, I'll send it back over to you. Brett, would love to chat to you. I'll figure out a way to open some doors for you into the specific teaching wheel of cultural detoxing. The first one
Yeah,
outlines some of the questions
Brett,
you were asking
that
and gives you an
question.
insight into what does an individual do when they're at the experience of great. Now I need to go toe to toe with the culture because the
Yeah,
culture is indoctrinating or suppressing
yeah,
individuals to the experience they can't evolve, and how to work with that.
yeah, Brett. That's a
Great,
cracking.
great,
Yeah.
great, yeah, great work to be done there.
We
So
do an
let's chat.
entire teaching wheel on that conflict between culture and individual and how we work with that. Really important.
Jake sharing. I don't know if that's a personal question. Is that something I can ask Hillary if she wants to do now?
Um,
Yes. Jump on a 30-minute call with Nat. Is that
yeah,
what
yeah,
he's
yeah,
asking?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, 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 absolutely, absolutely.
Just set Nat a private message after this, Jake. Banger of a class. Nat.
Cool. That was fun. Thanks, guys.
Team, let us know how that was. Jump into the chat panel. Thanks for being here. Same time, same place, 14 days from now, every fortnight. If
Love
any
it,
of
Brett.
you have come to the class but were invited privately by Nat or myself and haven't been receiving our emails, for example, Brett the other day hit me up, so I sent him the registration link. Hit me up on Facebook, guys. Nat's always available for questions, but anything to do with admin, making sure you're receiving free resources that we have, please hit me up and I'll make sure that you're in our database.
Oh, and
And
team,
our
sorry.
YouTube channel is now live. So
Great.
we are going to be creating free YouTube library with these classes for you moving forward. We didn't know we were going to do that when we started the OTG classes, but it sounds
And our
like you
book,
guys are pumped.
TC, our book is coming. Life Beyond Mind and Rebuilding the Throne of the Heart. We've got a book coming. It's going to be great.
It is on the way. Nat just heaps people saying thanks to the class.
Pleasure. Well done, team. Stay sharp. You guys know what to do. Love you
Can't see any
guys.
questions coming through. Big love, team. Have a good day.